I practiced hard for 5,000 years to become a Tianzuan, but I chose to give up becoming an immortal and use 5,000 years of Dao Hong to return to the past to atone for myself, because I was a scumbag. Obviously my family was poor, but I like to compare, and I kept dropping out of the snow and becoming Tianzuan. Asking for money from the family for the reason of killing eventually led to the killing of my mother and the forced jumping of my sister to jump off the building, and my sister's jumping off the building was a desperate cry, which made me fall into endless self-blame and remorse, so I worked hard. I got rid of the Z-Way heavenly sin that became admired by all people, but I did not choose to ascend to become an immortal, but used the reversal and rebirth technique, and returned to the past with 5,000 years of Daoheng, atoning for my past self, a purple light. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. I can finally pay the penalty for my sins, and that imperial capital young man Zhou Xiong. At this time, I will never let you hurt my family again. When I return to the dormitory, the first thing I need to do is to make money as soon as possible and improve my family's predicament. At this time, a group of roommates just came back and said in a weird way, "Master Mu, where will you ask our brothers to come back tonight?" In my previous life, I liked to compare and show, and often took my mother's hard-earned money to invite them to eat, drink, and have fun. And they have always known my bottom line. But they have always made me the wrong boss by pretending to be Feng Cheng. I ignored these clowns, left the dormitory with a computer head without looking back, and came to the second-hand market outside the campus. I didn't expect that the computer that my mother bought me with frugality back then can only sell for 800 yuan, and I just coveted it, pretending to be a rich person to mix in nightclubs, and as soon as I ran out of money, I dropped out of blood and committed suicide to him. She wants money, and that's how her mother's body is. Not only did I feel tears of remorse at the thought of this. Hey, wooden plow. It was a plainly dressed girl with short hair who stopped me, and I turned around and forgot that it was my sister Mu Shi. Now that I see my sister Mu Xing again, one person and one rescue, she handed over an envelope and her tone was very cold. "This is the 5,000 yuan I earned from my part-time job for 2 semesters. You take it, don't look for anesthetics." At this time I am still in guilt. I looked at him stupidly and pretended to be stupid. Mu Xine smashed the envelope on me fiercely. "You threatened your mother to drop out of the snow if she didn't give you money? Do you think I don't know?" The more he talked, the more excited Mu roared. "Be a person, Master Mu. If I'm taking money, I'm a sinner, and you need money to study." "Shwe, I'm not on it." Her tone is full of helplessness and unwillingness. "The family owes a bunch of debts. How can my mother get so much money alone?" Hearing that, I suddenly hugged her. I wanted to say sorry, but I didn't even feel qualified to say sorry now. "Don't poke the blood yet. Give me a few days, and I'll let you and my mother see the changes in me." I went straight to the nearest herb shop, bought a large bag of herbs and a pot of miscellaneous herbs, and ran to a hill in the suburbs with those herbs, and started a hot pot. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. In the 5 realms of divine soul, transformation, God, and heaven and man, the superior technique with the fastest sword effect of the immortal sword I practiced only lasted for 1 hour and reached the early stage of practice. I tried my current strength, bang, and saw the strength of my arm. A thick tree was pierced by me, and now I should be enough to deal with the ordinary dancers in Huaxia. And the next thing is to use the fastest way to make money. I had a flash of inspiration, and when I returned to the city, I went to an internet cafe and opened a telecommunications bus. Entered an epic trading network, but everyone prefers to call him a black thing. The first thing that was shown was a top iron, and the old man of the Longshan Lu family, Lu silently, broke through the venerable realm, and Wu Zuan was considered powerful among the martial artists. Pick up the reward, marry the name of Su Jeshi, the daughter of Su Wan, a wealthy man in Longshan, and pay 10 million. The Killing Gate Seal Thorn took over the task, and the comments below all felt that this girl was going to die, and turned down to see a post. In a hurry, Chang hired a master to protect Xiaomi Hospital, with a reward of 20 million, but no one has dared to accept this task so far. Kind of funny, the corners of my mouth raised a touch of confusion, and then I took the task under the code name Wuji. Everyone on it was shocked, and nobody dared to compete with the trend. A few moments later, my phone rang and I reported my address and asked for someone to pick me up. In the Su family, the housekeeper couldn't help but be suspicious when she heard that it was in an internet cafe. Is this man reliable? Su-Wan was also full of doubts about this mysterious Wuji, but he had no choice. It's already thankful that someone dares to take on this task. Half an hour later, a luxury BYD took me to the Su family's mansion. Seeing my appearance, Su-Wan was taken aback. So young. Even if he was not at peace, he still treated everyone with great care. "Mr. Wuji, the mission publisher Su-Wan is below, and I asked him to take me around to survey the terrain." Su-Wan also told the cause and effect. By the way, he had a business death, and not long ago he provided the clues of the other party's collection and black money to the police. In the end, that person's business was shut down and closed, but he didn't expect him to go to the black market to train with 10 million. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. At this time, the housekeeper came over to report. Master Lin came back. The people who came were old and young, and it could be seen that they were dancers, much stronger than those professional bodyguards in the dark, and the old man saw the Su family on the cusp of the storm. A young man couldn't help but ask, "Who is this?" Suan introduced, "He is the one who took my black market reward. His name is Wuji," and both of them looked at me with lean eyes. "This is too young." The plot of the game will be staged immediately, and the young dancer Ling Chuan mocked, "Children, can you afford this reward of 20 million? Su Wenjian hurriedly came forward to make a round, and everyone said so kindly, but she didn't believe in my heart how capable I was. So I asked tentatively, "Do you have any ideas about protecting my daughter?" I responded lightly, dismantling all the bodyguards and surveillance around me, and the old man seemed to guess my thoughts. Is the old brother trying to set a trap to lure the wind into the circle and then subdue it in a rush of arms? No, it's that they're too weak and more in the way. "Do you think you are a martial artist? Do you dare to fight me, Wu Zuin?" He smiled and thought it was me. "So call all the people here who can fight, and you guys can go up together." Of course, they will not refuse my request for such a pretend. So I called dozens of top bodyguards to surround me. Zhao Chun. Chuan stood aside and sneered, seeing how many seconds you could last. The bodyguards also felt insulted and greeted me mercilessly, and when their fists were about to hit me, a force was blowing like a tornado. It was as if they had struck an invisible cane, and they were all ejected. For a moment, the wind was calm, and I still stood there without moving a single step. The three people watching were stunned and doubtful of life, and the old man saw me in disbelief. I turned to look at Zhao Chuan and hooked his hand. "You come too." Zhao Chuan gritted his teeth, or rushed towards me quickly, leaping into the air and kicking me in the air. I gently raised my hand and slapped the air. It formed a visible abandonment fist, hit Zhao Chuan's body in the air, and with a bang, he was like a Kakins and was thrown away by the abandonment fist for dozens of meters, and the old man saw Zhao Nanandeo. There was no mistake. This power was, and then arched his hand. "Mr. Wu Ji, today is the old man. I have lost my eyes to apologize to you." Zhao Chuan got up in embarrassment and was surprised. "Master, aren't you his opponent either?" The old man smiled bitterly and shook his head helplessly. Even the Liu family is silent and clear. However, I am afraid that it is not Mr. Wu Ji's opponent. Under Su Wen's shocked eyes, he explained, "Yes, he was a peak martial arts master with extremely deep cultivation. Back in the house, the attitude of several people became respectful, and it seemed that they thought I was Wu Zuin. In fact, I just emitted the spiritual power in my body to create a chi treasure, so I took the opportunity to make two requests. First, I will pay a deposit of 2 million, and second, I will have the final say on all protection matters." Of course, Su Wen agreed without hesitation. Then I answered, "I also offered to go out for the day tomorrow." Su Wen suddenly showed an embarrassed expression, worried that the killer would come to do it after I left. "Then let Mr. Su's daughter go out with me." Just when Su Wen hesitated, one was wearing pajamas like rabbits. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. I didn't have to go back to lying down again, and it was a hassle to change my clothes, and then he walked up to me and pointed, "Who is this man?" When Su Wen heard this, he was afraid that he would offend me, so he scolded me loudly. "Sujeshi, I seriously warn you not to behave disrespectfully towards Mr. Wu Ji." He wanted to question how good he could be at such a young age, but when he thought I could take him out to play, he couldn't help but say anything more. The next day, Suro arranged for a driver to drive us out of the house in Cullinan, and also transferred 2 million to my account. On the way, Sujechi was excited. "Let's go to Dadui. I haven't been shopping for a long time," and I issued a name that cannot be refused, "Going to Longshan University of Technology." Sujechi's face suddenly looked bad. "The whole book. What are you listening to? Whose? What a sensation it can cause when you bring a beautiful woman to the boys' dormitory." Just now, Su Wen arranged for the driver to drive Curryman to take us out, and on the way, Sujechi, who had been imprisoned for a long time, was clamoring to go shopping. After I refused, she shouted loudly to stop. The housekeeper looked at me and waited for my answer. I smiled evilly. "Then stop. Tell the car to stop." Sujechi proudly opened the car door and walked down. Miss Bin took her leave. The scene in front of her made her dream. She silently returned to the car without saying a word, sulking there alone with her hands on her chest. I didn't bother to worry about her little girl, and when I finished my work today, I will accompany you wherever you want to go. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. Miss was always in Mr. Wuji's line of sight. and she had no choice but to come to my dormitory with me. But the scene in the room refreshed her cognition. Said with a condensed face, young Master Mu actually even got this kind of superb girl. I blocked Sujechi behind me. In my previous life, these three people always treated me as the wrong leader. I slowly closed my eyes, and the sky and earth changed color in an instant, and they found. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Sujechi kept asking you, what kind of evil art did you use just now? Impatiently I suddenly looked at him with a gloomy expression. If you dare to disobey me. Sujechi was suddenly frightened and turned back. Just kidding. I quickly regained my composure. And I called my sister's number. Where are you? I'm coming to you now, and I'm dumbfounded when I get to my sister's part-time job. Sujechi smiled and said, you like this kind of tone? Who would have thought that with the character of your sister, you would have a theme meal? When I came to the store, I looked around, but I didn't find Mu Xian's figure. So I had to jump to a window position and sit down, casually asked about the spirit core, and finally saw him after waiting for a while. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Sujechi seemed to know the young man, who was the only son of the chairman of Sun's real estate group, but Lingxin ignored him completely and turned around and left. Sun Shengren's face became very ugly at this time, and he entered from the table, picked up a glass of water, poured it on his pants, and then roared, the boss got out of here. A store manager in a housekeeper uniform hurriedly ran over. Sun Shengren pointed directly at his pants. How does this maid in your store do things? Tell him to lick it clean for me with his own hands. The sturdy store manager was furious and stretched out his hand to slap the star, and I had already come behind him and grabbed his hand, threw him out with a casual throw, and slapped this rich second generation in an instant. He didn't forget to threaten. Do you know who I am? At this time, Sujechi walked next to me. You dare to touch my people. Sujechi. Sun Shengren seemed to see a ghost for a moment, and then he longed to grow 3 legs. Sujechi smiled proudly. You owe me a favor. No, she owes you a life. She is a younger sister who is envied and pitted by countless people, because there is a person in the family who pierces her brother and makes her a young girl. As the breadwinner of the family, everyone else enjoyed the after-school fun. But he longed to have 24 hours a day so that he could work a few more hours. Although I know why, I can't help but ask, how did you get to this situation? Mu Xian responded silently, the salary is high, and I really want to punch myself at this time, because of how much my sister has suffered. At this time, Mu Xian suddenly stopped and his face was slightly red. I haven't changed my clothes yet. I looked at this eldest lady. Do you have any recommendations? So she took us to a high-end clothing store. When Lingxin came out in a blue dress, Sujechi couldn't help but tease me. Why are you so wrong? Can there be one? Sujechi smiled. What are you afraid of? Now your brother can buy this store and give it to you. Showing a surprised expression a little incredulous, he is now my bodyguard, salary is high. Hearing that I couldn't help but raise my head proudly, after buying clothes, I will transfer him $1 million, and let him keep some of the rest for his mother. Won't you explain some to me? I thought about it for a while. A few days ago I met a beggar. He took out a few martial arts cheats. I spent 10 yuan to buy a copy. I didn't expect him to be a hidden and vulgar martial arts master. It was he who wrote me down and taught me a martial arts master. Mu Xian looked at me like a fool. Do you think I will believe it? I was a little embarrassed and thought that this story was very realistic, but after pretending to think about it, Lingxin scolded, you just changed? I will tell your story to my mother, and wait to send Lingxin away. Sujechi couldn't help but guess, you shouldn't be a free person, right? I blushed and quickly changed the topic. You can go wherever you want next, of course, it's baked cakes. Sujechi chose to buy without hesitation, and it was until dusk. Who can know my pain? This shopping with a woman is much more difficult than leisure. If it weren't for my 3 legs and 2 hands, I wouldn't be able to hold so many clothes and jewelry. Back in the car, Sujechi stretched a big lazy waist beautifully, and she was so happy today. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. A big tree fell on the road in the middle of the road, and the housekeeper hurriedly got out of the car to check the sad face of the road. And suddenly 2 gunshots rang out, and the housekeeper looked in horror at the side of his temple. There was a bullet suspended in space. He was so frightened that he was incoherent. Mr. Wu Ji? Of course this is my masterpiece, actually playing with toys in front of me. I used the internal force to wave my backhand, and the bullet hit the signature with precision like a tracking missile. Hearing the movement outside, Sujechi, who was still asleep just now, also got out of the car. What's wrong? And it was a puff of black smoke wafting in front of her. Just smelling it, and in an instant she collapsed to the ground. Ecstasy. In this way, after the black smoke dissipated, several gunmen slowly walked here. A puff of black smoke suddenly appeared on the barren mountains, and the girl just sniffed it, and in an instant she collapsed to the ground. Several men in black slowly walked towards him, and the leader instructed his subordinates that the young man was gone, and that he should quickly take the target away first. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded behind him. "Are you looking for me?" Several people turned around suddenly. I felt a creepy aura in front of me, but I quickly regained my composure and came at me. I stretched out my fingers, and I held a few leaves between my fingertips, and in an instant I only heard a few screams, and several people fell to the ground. The leader was dumbfounded. His body trembled, picking leaves to kill. I showed the remaining leaf, and said, "Where are you from?" After the leader calmed down, he showed a clear expression. "I am afraid that he will disappoint you. Then bite through the poison in the mouth." I didn't expect that there would be such a strictly trained organization in a place like Longshan. The gang was still chopping down trees, and I slowly raised my hand to gather a breath, and with a low shout, my arm length slapped out, and it was broken. Aiku's big tree was broken in response, and then used internal force to wake up Sujuchi and them one by one. After a while, the two of them woke up leisurely, and the housekeeper couldn't help but put down a piece of corpse when he saw a place, and it was not advisable to stay here for a long time, so drive away. When I returned to Sue's house, I briefly told them what happened halfway, but they have a leaf-shaped sign on their arms, which should not be the killers of the killing gate. Leaf? The old man seemed to have heard about it before, and Suwon showed a sad expression. It seems that there are other people eyeing Juchi, and they really can't be careless. I asked Suwon for some bathrooms, and after a while, the housekeeper brought a box of brightly colored bathrooms. The mortal cultivators can use spiritual power. Enter it to make a simple talisman artifact. When I got back to my room in the evening, I started knitting. The next day, I came to Sujuchi's room and took the jade cut that had been knitted and asked her to wear it closely. As soon as she heard it, her face turned red. Luffy usually pretends to be a gentleman, but in the end, he doesn't want to protect Miss Bin's beauty. I was so aggressive that I would go straight to the living room, ready to show them what these bathrooms look like. I picked up a pistol and went to the bath. A circular light suddenly appeared in the jade pendant and bounced the bullet away. It was amazing. The old man had never seen this kind of talisman treasure, and when they were surprised, the jade pendant shattered. Suwon sighed. This kind of treasure is naturally unusable. It's nice to have one extra life. No, this one is just for disguise. These are genuine products, and each one can be used 4 or 5 times. Master Su, you keep one, and you can send someone to give it to my sister and my mother for the rest of the trouble, and get the jade. Sujuchi did throw her away, and Muli, you asked me to bring it, but I didn't bring it, and then I took the bag and prepared to go out, and I also noticed that she didn't take me to give her Yuzhua. I followed her all the way to a shopping mall, Sujuchi said to me helplessly, "Can you not follow me?" No, just when he's struggling with how to get rid of me. His brain, which had an IQ of 142, came up with an idea, and he went straight to the bathroom door and said in a snort, "You suddenly want to go to the toilet. Do you want to go with you too?" I'm a little speechless. Is this woman afraid that I won't guess that she's going to do a ghost? After entering the bathroom, she climbed out of the window and down with a smug smile. "Boy, you want to see me? You want to see me? I'm the witch of Longshan Su. You're still too tender." Sujuchi. Suddenly a voice came from below. She subconsciously responded, and suddenly reacted, and found that I was standing below and looking up at her. "You are going to scare me to death," and then full of meaning. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. It's a cartoon pattern, and it took a while for him to sneak his head out, and this guy came up again so quickly. Wooden plow. Is this a sweet-looking girl calling me? It's been 5,000 years, and when I saw my crushed girl in my previous life again, my emotions were confirmed. And Sujuchi. It was angry and despised me. Stinky pear. During work, he dared to blatantly run to pick up girls. Liao stroked her hair. "You seem to have changed a lot, and your temperament is different." I took a long breath inside. The years are urging people. He laughed. "How old are you to get such a vicissitudes of life? By the way, you remember to come on my birthday in a few days," and then pointed to the toilet with a strange expression. "So I won't bother you with the date. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns." On the 100-meter wide road, a BYD is walking in snakeskin, and others think that this road is his living room. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Don't go on the road. I've been waiting here for a long time. Don't discredit you female drivers. He gritted his teeth and stared at me viciously. However, with the status of the Su family, Su Jiechi was let out on the same day, and he just got cold with me when he got home. However, if you want to go to Li Yao's birthday party, you have to bring this trouble money, and finally make a deal by promising her a condition. In the evening, we came to Li Yao's own hotel. Su Jiechi also dressed up carefully, combed her ball hair, and put on her clothes. You were wearing a red evening dress, and you promised me yesterday that you would not follow me in the future, but you can't go back. Fool. I'll just do it secretly. Mu Li, here. I saw Li Yao wearing a light blue skirt with a sleek shoulder, taking his father with him. My name is Li Yao, and I am Mu Li's classmate. He smiled politely and greeted Su Jiechi. Hello, I am the master of Merli. Li Yao pursed her mouth. Is this playing some role-playing? A yin and yang voice came. Yo, isn't this our Mu de Gongzi? I didn't expect you to come to Yao Yao's birthday party. Wu Ming, a narrow-minded little girl. When I was in high school, I was in front of others because of my vanity. Yo-Yo television series exclusive. Flies are ugly, let's go outside. The eldest lady who usually ignores me, but when she saw me being ridiculed, she didn't hesitate to stand up for me. Wooden plow. Where did this fly come from so ugly? Standing up this time, Wu Ming was suddenly indignant. How can a class pet court have this kind of girl by his side? And the character who was trampled under everyone's feet suddenly became better than himself, which will always make people feel extremely happy. As soon as the chairman and the eldest young master of Geishan walked in, they immediately became the focus of the banquet, surrounded by people who had come to stammer. And he noticed me standing in the corner, and he couldn't help but think of the shame of being in the maid's dining room that day, just holding up the wine namelessly. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Why do you look so ugly as a rich lady? Su Jiechi didn't care. The cake was so delicious. Why should I pay attention to the image? This is Wu Ming and Sun Chengren walking up to me, and then suddenly grabbing my hand. Lying on the ground and yelling, Wu Ming also cooperated and shouted loudly. In my eyes, you not only steal things, but also beat people. I am speechless. This kind of childish behavior will not be the same for elementary school students. But these classmates who want to talk to the Sun family do not want to know the truth. I just know that I just need to stand on Sun Chengren's side, and I pretend to hate iron and steel, and I look away from your high school character, but I didn't expect you to be like this now. When I became the messenger of everyone, Li Yao stood under pressure. But Sun Chengren knocked on the side and came up behind me, took out an omega, and pretended to find it from my pants pocket. Your methods are too low level, aren't they? Xiao Ming didn't want to write it, so he threw him out with a light wave. Sun Dafu couldn't help but be furious when he saw his son being beaten, which is about the face of the Sun family. Boy, if you don't want to go through the lawsuit, you'd better get down on your knees and apologize to my son. After 5,000 years of life, this is the 45th time that someone has threatened me. Su Jiechi, lying on the ground. Sun Chengren saw me so arrogant and threatened, and stole my millions of watches. Are you going to go to prison for the rest of your life? Is it so loud to show off in the millions? Su Jiechi licked the remaining watch on her hand. Sun Jia has never seen the world. Sun Chengren saw that this little witch was also there, and he was going to be unlucky today. Su Jiechi came to me and complained. Why is this kind of person talking so much nonsense with her, wasting my time eating cake? Li Hong looked at me. He had never seen the world like this. Seeing the little girl so big and asking her, "Who are you, little girl?" I thought to myself, wait a minute, let me get away from these people who pretend to be big-headed. Su Jiechi's tone is very arrogant. It's normal not to know me. Do you think anyone is qualified to see me in person? Sun Dafu directly ordered the bodyguards to blast them out. Su Jiechi was embarrassed. This old fool really didn't recognize her face, but she was not bad. I haven't been bombed since I was so big. How could I let you bang as a man? Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Many bodyguards prepared to kill without any worries, and after keeping Su Jiechi away from me, I began to release the spiritual power in my body, but in an instant, the whole hall was filled. Sun Chengren also felt fear at this time. Could it be that he was a dancer? I jumped high and cast the Immortal Law Shadow Clone, divided by 3 or 5 by 2, turned these little Kara over, and came to the back of the Sun family's father and son. They haven't even seen how I'm going to make a move. Su Jiechi also said excitedly, that old man's son also wants to teach him a lesson. Sun Dafu panicked. I am the chairman of the Sun Group. Even if you're Wu Xia, you can't say it yet. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. In front of him and Wu Ming, give them a loving hug. Now the banquet hall is quiet, and the guests can only hide from the old Peking opera and look here. Li Hong walked over at this time. This classmate, go quickly. The Sun family is not something that you can endure as a student. Li Yao didn't understand that this was obviously their fault. Su won. A voice broke the silence of the banquet, and there was an uproar in the hall again. Su is the person in charge of the enterprise, and the person at the top of the Longshan commercial factory. Why did he appear at this banquet where he was only a mid-level celebrity? And what surprised them even more was that he said respectfully to me, "Mr. Wuji, is there anything you need help with?" Who is this young man? The question that surrounded everyone's minds. Sun Dafu slowly woke up and saw the person in front of him. "You are? It is Su Dong. Please sell me Su someone a face. The little girl and her friends are just messing with your son." Sun Dafu listened. Kneeling straight in front of me and begging for hard work, Lord Ming, doesn't he care about the villain? Don't touch me. See me stay away in the future. And the eyes of the girls at the banquet are shining at this time. These female classmates who were still scolding me just now. As soon as the smoke slipped away, he surrounded me, looking like Rin Jun was colored. Seeing this, Su Juchi suddenly felt a sour feeling in her heart. Men are all big pigs. At this time, Ling Yu shouted loudly from a few kilometers away from the crowd, "Mr. Wuji, the people of the Wuming want to see you, and when they see me, they look confused," he explained. The Wuming was founded in the ancient era of the Hades dynasty, and the founder was a disciple of the martial Gajong Sanfeng, an organization composed of Chinese warriors, and was ordered by the state. Yo-Yo television series exclusive. There is a mysterious organization in Huaxia that has been entrusted to the top leadership of the country to deal with the events that have taken place in the rivers and lakes. Lin Yu introduced me to Mr. Wuji. This is the Beishishan group of the second group of the Longshan 5 Leagues branch. Longshan is making a fuss. Mr. Wuji is so young, and the people present undoubtedly don't think that he is just gaining a reputation, because even the head of the Longshan 5 League branch does not dare to challenge the seal. It must be difficult for the little brother to dare to accept this reward. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. I heard that, little brother, you are responsible for protecting Su Juchi, and I want to come and say hello. I replied lightly and turned away. Seeing that I had such a cold attitude, the other members were upset. Beishishan doesn't think so. You follow a short-lived process. When I returned to the banquet hall, I found Li Yao and gave her a well-practiced talisman as a birthday gift. Li Yao saw that this was a valuable bathroom, and she knew that my family background categorically refused. "This jade pendant is very important. You must contact." As soon as this sentence came out, Li Yao's face turned slightly red and he responded in a low voice. Okay. Happened to be seen by Su Juchi, who was hiding aside, and suddenly his mouth was puffed up. Stinky pear. I actually took my bath gun girl. Wait for a masquerade to go and play together. I didn't refuse. I randomly chose a big black trench coat and put on a mask that could cover half of my face, and when I came to the hall, I recognized Su Juchi at a glance. I can't help but want to complain. How much she likes to complain. On the other hand, Li Yao is dressed like an elf in the world, with an ethereal temperament and a beautiful face, becoming the brightest boy on this street. She refused to come to meet countless men who had come to invite her to dance. "Please, let's go dancing." Before I could respond, her silky little hands took me. "I'll teach you." The expression of a certain eldest lady now. Just like you won 5 million, at this moment, all the lights in the hall suddenly went out, and the surroundings fell into darkness, and then Su Juchi's cry for help came. And after explaining that Li Yao stayed where he was, I hurried to find Su Juchi. Later, a man in black appeared behind Li Yao, and when he was about to make a move, the necklace on Li Yao's chest emitted a green light, and then formed a barrier to envelop him inside. At a mark at the end, and one of them reported that the Tang Lord, the daughter of the Li family, failed. "Forget it. You guys go now." He decisively gave the order to retreat and stood still. White Stone Mountain suddenly appeared behind him. Red Knife 8 years. "You are not dead yet. The Scarman doesn't take him seriously. You once Shui Wuming destroyed my Hahuan faction. Today Lao Tzu made you bloody, and I also chased after this matter and returned Su Juchi. Otherwise you Hahuan faction will die." Sher Shan raised his hand to stop me, because he was afraid that I would become a burden to him if I rashly made a move. "I also want to see what kind of strength the current dancers are, and I'll just give you 1 minute." The Scarman didn't talk nonsense. His left hand gathered spiritual power to attack, and the two fought back and forth. It can be seen that the strength is equal, and at this time, the Scarman secretly took out a dagger from behind his back and stabbed him in the chest while the center of gravity of Baishir Mountain was unstable. The Scarman suddenly felt a distance from his waist, and then the whole person was kicked out by me. I said I'd only give you 1 minute, and Scarman got up in embarrassment, thinking of the severe punishment for failing the mission. He took out a small red pill and swallowed it. and then roared angrily. In just a few seconds, her momentum continued to rise, her body was shocked, and her expression was hideous. This is the ammunition that the ancestor gave me to enhance my strength. You all have to die now. You're talking too much nonsense, and my figure disappeared in place, and in an instant I came to him, grabbed his head and slammed it to the ground. Bai Shirshan was stunned. The enemy he couldn't match was in my hands, and he didn't have the power to fight back at all. On the other side, Su Jueqi, who was kidnapped, slowly opened her eyes. I was indeed kidnapped here. Looking at the obscene appearance of several people in the car, she felt frightened for the first time. Where are you looking away? She's the daughter of the richest man in Yongsan. He had been kidnapped countless times, but this time he felt the first horror in his life because it was the notorious He Huan who had kidnapped him. The people of his sect practiced the method of collecting sound and supplementing the law, and saw such a beautiful and moving woman. The young man next to him couldn't control himself at all, and the person in front of him hurriedly stopped him when he saw this. This is the ancestor's thing. And when the ancestor finishes enjoying it, he will naturally reward us, and when the time comes, you can ravage as much as you want. Add punctuation marks at the end. The tears in your eyes can't stop whirling. Deadwood Plow. Why haven't you come yet? At this moment, a light flashed quickly from the side of the car, and the two people in the car looked at it. What was that just now? I saw that I had arrived. I stood on the front of the car with one hand. No matter how roaring the car was, but I couldn't take a step forward. Yuan patted his disciple and kicked the car door, rushed down with the M416, and saw that Lao Tzu would not shoot you into a pot. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. The lieutenant general caught all the bullets, hit him with the sword, hurriedly took the unconscious Su Jueqi out of the car, ran to the beach, and his tone trembled a little. You don't come over, otherwise I will throw him into the sea to feed the clouds. I glanced at him with disdain. Do you think I don't dare? Hurt each other? Then he really threw Su Jueqi down. Don't the current villains talk nonsense? I quickly tackled the little Kalam and jumped off the cliff. Su Jueqi. He was confused, his eyes closed, but he could feel death at hand. Suddenly, I felt a warmth in my waist, and the speed of the fall seemed to slow down. He felt the man holding him in his arms. His embrace was so warm. I held him and slowly stood on the surface of the sea. Back at the Su family, Suan said that the people who attacked this time all committed suicide by taking poison, but I didn't expect the people of the Hai Huan faction to be so loyal. It seems that the clue this time was broken again, and then Su Jueqi also woke up. Muli, do you want to come over for a while? I thought something was wrong with him and rushed to his side, only to throw me on the bed the next second. You, a man of his word, do you promise to protect me? If it weren't for the mysterious man who showed up today, I'd help him show up. I'm afraid I'm not being insulted by an old man. It seems that he thought someone else had saved him. I don't want to explain too much. Yes, it's my fault. Su and Gon looked at us in this posture. That, Mr. Wuji, the father and son of the Sun family, are coming to you. When I came to the living room, they respectfully apologized, and then took out 10 million to compensate me for the mental loss. I didn't embarrass them, but warned them not to go any further close to my sister. Counting the time, the sealing of the killing door is not more than enough. I gave up 5,000 years of cultivation to go back to the past to atone for my sins, but now I only made 30 million, which is not enough to buy a house for my mother, so I thought of using this assassination to make a gamble. What kind of bullshit is the post that pulls hatred and seals the thorns? Wuji has been practicing martial arts since I was a child, and it is the only weapon training material in 10,000, and those who buy me will lose 10 for 1, and those who seal the assassin will lose 1. As soon as this post came out, it immediately aroused me. Countless people scolded angrily, and after a while, they received dozens of betting messages, and they laughed out loud when they saw that I didn't do it. This leak grows so well. Su Jueqi, who has been holding back at home for a few days, began to quarrel again to go out, and looked forward to wanting to go out again all day long. As far as her hero went, it was calm for a few days, except that this little witch chattered around me every day and was quite leisurely. It was better not to tell her the truth. Otherwise her character would definitely be entangled and immortal, and she would be entangled by this little witch all day long. I have a headache when I think about it, and then I feel a murderous aura attacking. So I quickly dragged him back to the house, and then forcibly took a jade bracelet on his hand, regardless of his resistance, showing a serious expression, and promised me not to be willful. This is to protect you. Such a close look at each other made her feel at ease. It turned out that she was also quite handsome, but after waiting for 4 hours and not moving, she was so cautious. Is it because I am by her side? Then let me help her. A little white rabbit in a flower bed outside. Are you sure? Su Jueqi jumped up all of a sudden, and ran out as soon as she slipped through the smoke. Come out, little bunny. I'll give you a banana. She screamed happily, energetically looking for the figure of the little white rabbit in the garden. Observing in the dark, I couldn't help but show surprise that I didn't even take the bait. At this moment, the tree next to it made the sound of flowers, and Su Jueqi glanced at it suspiciously. Is it finally here? I also walked out of the house when my sixth sense, which had been single for 5,000 years, alerted me to a threat. Sure enough, a man in black attacked me, raised his hand to block it, and then launched a second attack on him, stabbing him in an instant. It turned out that his target was myself, and I gathered my spiritual power and punched him in my hand, and with a bang, he was blown away dozens of meters and fell heavily to the ground. If it weren't for the fact that I am an immortal cultivator, those martial artists would be in danger of such a sudden attack. Even if he didn't die, he would have to be seriously injured. He actually failed. Could it be that he was a high-level martial artist? After the golden yellow, he took out the smoke bomb, and now he was full of only one thought left in his mind. How could it be? As soon as he turned around, he found that Confucius. I pursued him until evening, but when I reached a lake, I lost sight of him. The man was at the bottom of the lake to avoid being pursued. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. The next moment, the face of the round needle in the wind-piercing eyes became extremely pale. He's still there. I'm slowly walking towards him. It's an extremely terrifying scene. He can actually step on the water like stepping on the ground. What is he? For the first time in his life, he is so afraid of a person. Your secret breath exercises are good. I am quite interested in his secret methods. Do you want to learn? Pull me down to the lake first, and then grab his clothes with one hand and go in. Han Guang flashed in Feng Ting's eyes, and a dagger appeared in his hand, and he stabbed at me, who was still close at hand. In the next second, Feng Thorn's face turned pale and completely desperate, and Han Guang's thin dagger was entered by him with only 2 fingers. I don't want to say it, just forget it. Being interested doesn't mean I have to get it, and then grabbed the thorn by the shoulder and threw him into the air. The dagger between the 2 fingers was the same as the sky, and the stab was stabbed through the head and there was nothing to do. There was a sound of plopping into the water, and the lake was immersed again, and then a message from my sister Mu Xian came from the mobile phone. Brother, when will you come back? Mom said she missed you, and now that she is very happy, I won't come back to this matter. You made 500 million yuan, and then you became a nymphomaniac. Come back early to help me find the big hero who saved me last time. This little witch still doesn't want to tell her the truth in this life. Maybe she will annoy me every day in the future, and then I feel that suddenly there are a lot of girls on my shoulders, and it is a girl dozing against me, with dazzling red hair and very beautiful. When we arrived at the terminal, there was a commotion in the car, and I saw several burly men walking towards us with weapons in their hands. And the little girl of yoga saw how long you could hide, brandishing a bat in her hand and threatening, handing over the weapons configured by the master. Let you die a little more happily. Seeing this, the girl hurriedly reminded me, you go quickly, they're looking for me. And the big man impatiently smashed the stick directly. In an instant, the girl's petite body suddenly dragged me through the wall and fled. Turning around and telling me, I will block them for a while, you take the opportunity to escape, and then stopped. I don't want innocent people to die for me. Several big men also quickly caught up, and one of them condensed spiritual power and swung a few attacks, and the girl hurried, pushed me away, and then the hands merged to appear a light shield barrier, but it still didn't resist. But as soon as it touched the defense, it was shattered, and the sweat came up with a chicken shield devil, and the girl flew upside down dozens of meters under this heavy blow, crashed into the wall of the carriage, the rejuvenating agent prepared by the master of the Imperial Capital Pharmacy himself. It's a pity that the old lady of yoga can't wait, and the big man sees me who is about to leave. Boy, do I allow you to leave? I wanted to see 5,000 years from now as soon as possible. I don't want to care about all this, but this dying man forcibly left me behind. Boy, did I let you go? As soon as you heard it, you hurriedly told me to run away. They are all dancers, not you as an ordinary person. A group of big men with weapons in their hands had come to my back, and after 2 seconds of tragic fighting, several people were embedded in the car in different positions. Just a swarm of flies. Flies? Wu Hongtai kissed his face. His eyes became fierce, and he put it away. The palm of his hand was bent into a claw and clawed towards me, didn't it? I leaned down and used all my spiritual power to gather on my left fist. Can you stop my fist with 5,000 years of kung fu? With a loud bang, he flew like a cannonball. Along the way, the glass of the carriage was shattered one after another, and Wu Hong was embarrassed and put on the ground with an unbelievable face. You are a martial artist, but there is no such young martial artist in Jinhu province. Are you the emperor who immediately broke the mirror? If you don't know, hand over the looted potions, and you'll be able to get out. Sturdy, he hurriedly took out the potion. I had eyes and didn't know Mount Tai before. Please atone for your sins. Yu Xiaodong is afraid that I will also pay attention to this potion, and this potion, the predecessor can do it. You are so precious that you are reissued in such a fragile container, so you are not afraid of accidentally breaking it. As soon as the words fell, the potion landed and made a crisp sound. I'm a little embarrassed that it's easy to break, but he was completely stupid, and after he came back to his senses, he hugged me and cried, Ah, it is important for you to compensate me. Now, Yu Xiaodong thought of what his brother said that men can't resist. Then he put his hands on the net. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. When the child heard it, he immediately forgot his worries and hugged my hand. The moves taught by my brother really worked, and after the war, as soon as I came out, there was a car waiting in the thorn. It was Yu Xiaodong's brother Yu Xiaoxiong. This poem, Yu Xiaodong was a little embarrassed and casually perfunctory. Brother, let's talk about it later on the way. Yu Xiaoxiong still couldn't help but ask here. Did you get your livelihood back? Yu Xiaodong hesitantly told about what happened before. And when he came to the Yu family's villa, he saw several people sighing in name. Mr. Yu was afraid that time was running out. Yu Xiaodong hurriedly ran into the house with me when he heard this, but his brother looked sad outside. The old man is the pillar of the Yu family, and the 5 cultivation is one step closer to reaching 5 points, and he is almost finished at home. When they arrived at the ward, everyone listened to the echo meter and did not show a look of despair. At this time, the second yoga brother said in a weird way, I said, don't let the little classmates, and keep their whereabouts secret, and go to the imperial capital alone to ask for medicine. What will the old man's life be saved now? When Yu Xiaodong heard this, he hurriedly talked about it, and brought a master to save his grandfather. But when he saw that the master he said was so young, he couldn't help but hear that the second child of the Yu family was cold and hot. Are you a stunned young man who was casually found on the street? What kind of teacher are you? Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. This scene immediately frightened the yoga crowd into paleness, and Yu Laoer was one of the strongest people in the entire yoga force. At this time, the old Mingy on the side felt too ridiculous. The old man saw the occipital pulse in his chest for the first time, and the old lady Yu was already sick. Hearing this, Yu Xiaodong looked worried. Mr. Mu, can't my grandfather really be saved? I smiled slightly to reassure him. It was just a small injury, and it would be fine to give him a beating. The disease that the whole of China will not be able to remedy in the next term. But it is said that it is just a small injury, and it is good to beat it, which does not scare everyone in yoga. This kind of healing method is beyond their cognition. This is the simplest and most effective method, and they are not allowed to think more. I raised my hand and gently picked it up. My body was thrown into the air by me like a piece of paper, and the second child rushed up without knowing whether he was alive or dead. If there was no accident, there was no accident. I kicked it impatiently, and then I jumped high, and countless afterimages appeared in the air. Each palm struck the old lady's body. Yu Xiaodong was also incomprehensible. He watched his grandfather dumbfoundedly as a human sandbag. A moment later, I gently put him on the bed. Yu Xiaodong put him on the bed. Yu Xiaodong put him on the bed. Hurriedly ran over to check on the situation of my grandfather. The people of the Yu family stared at me with hateful eyes, but no one dared to do it for a while, and suddenly there was a cough on the bed, and I saw the old lady Yu who had been unconscious for many days. After feeling the red light with the old lady, my face showed joy, and I felt that I had never felt so comfortable. My dark wounds are healed. When I saw that he had woken up, I prepared to leave. Old man, your realm is also wonderful. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Yu Jiaoding tried his best to find it, and Yu Xiaodong blinked his eyes and looked at my departing back, with a different emotion in addition to gratitude. On the way home, when I left my hometown, I returned to my heart and stabbed the sword, and my mother worked hard for me all her life in the previous life. In the end, he was killed by a traitor, and in this life, he must let his mother spend this life happily. And it is still the familiar old residential building, full of layers of age. Mushi, before I came home, I saw my sister taking out the garbage. Brother, you are finally. Mom has asked me countless times in my ear today. 5,000 years later, I am finally back here again. My mother made a rare 4-dish and 1 soup for this purpose, and she sandwiched the few pieces of meat into my bowl. If you are short of money, you must tell your mother. Don't wrong yourself. Looking at the shadows of the trees on her 40-year-old head, and the wrinkles creeping up the horns of the goose, it was because I wanted to come back here and say sorry. I was able to move forward step by step to become an invincible celestial venerable, traveling through 5,000 years just to change my life, and then look at his scarred hands, which were caused by his seriously ill body when he was a child, in order to satisfy my desire to eat meat. Mom, I'm sorry, but I finally said something that had been holding back my heart for 5,000 years. Shaoli, Mom has never blamed you. Even if you become something, it's my heart. Mom, I've made some money outside. I'll buy you some money tomorrow. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Looking at me, in order not to be too expensive by my mother and refuse to live in, I found a community house with a better environment. At this time, there was a commotion outside, and it turned out to be a Porsche 911, and a man and a woman got out of the car, and the man was all sideways. The woman's hot body is wearing a slit skirt, and the people who eat melons are talking about it. You see that the man is uglier than Xiao Ming and has a girlfriend, and I smelled a pungent perfume smell from afar in the stall. The woman's lazy man's arm slowly walked towards me. The woman glanced at me, obviously a little surprised. "You are Muli. I have some doubts. I have no memory of her. I don't know you." She suddenly put on a face and said in a weird way, "Didn't you always like to follow my ass and call me beautiful sister when you were in junior high school? This shouldn't be the place where you can be, right?" Sister Zhou, it turned out to be her. She was the one who instigated me to take money from home to buy snacks for her. But behind her back she said that I was really buying snacks. It's like a dog, but he wasn't like this before. Has he been to Thailand? He coquettishly said to the fat man, "Dear, I want this sweet." The saleswoman is a little embarrassed. "I'm sorry, it was the gentleman who spoke first." Yomei's face was gloomy. "Don't believe this person. His family is very poor. We can go to half of it at once." I chuckled and took out a card, paid it all at once, and swiped it. After a while, the saleswoman looked at me awkwardly. Swipe failed. Yomei immediately puffed and pointed high. "I'll just say he's a hard fitter. He definitely doesn't have that much money. Maybe it's because of the limit." I picked up my phone and scanned it for him. "Congratulations, sir, for becoming our wish." Yomei continuously. Obviously, the poor boy who followed him in the past. How could he lose face in front of him? So he lied to the man. "Do I want this sweet?" The fat man was so shocked that he could afford the temptation, and he listened to his sister. It was he who called the sales manager. "And now I want to buy a house with a lake view, and your subordinate said that there is no way I can only look for you." The manager smiled and agreed to help him solve it. This is a big customer who has bought a few houses, so he came to politely ask me to let the house out. I shook my head and rejected him, and the manager's face suddenly changed without a hint of politeness. "Young man, this is the real estate of our estate, and we can choose not to sell movies in a single apartment." At this time, the yoga master had just passed by here, and he also noticed the noise in the hall. He shouted to me excitedly, "Mr. Mu, I didn't expect to meet here." The fat man was so shocked that he forgot to breathe, and his whole person was greatly impacted. "This garden community is your family's property. You can solve it for me. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. You will never allow her to be in these areas." All cooperation was terminated, and Zhou Mei's eyes widened as if she was stupid. Is she still the poor boy Muli? Even the yoga master has to be treated respectfully, and the fat manhood does not come out. Slapped Zhou Mei directly in the face. "Go. It's all the goods that you slut provoked me. You Xiaoxian wanted to give me a sweet as a companion, but now I am not short of money, so I naturally have to refuse." And the next day I took my mother and sister to the new house. The interior of the house is high-end, and the luxury contains warmth, and it is obvious that this house is especially unworthy of yoga. I didn't expect the newly bought house to be haunted, and there would always be a woman blowing cool air in my ears in my sleep. Just now, I took my mother and sister to the new house. This is a sleepy-eyed young man came to visit the door. "I am the resident opposite. Please take care of me in the future." But when she saw Mu Xian, her eyes were straight and she didn't even want to leave. "Can I ask for your contact details? You really look like my ex-girlfriend." When I saw this scene, I felt very unhappy. He put his arm on her shoulders and stepped aside. "Brother, what's the matter?" Jackie Chan smiled very easygoing. "Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. I just felt something was wrong when I moved in, and that night there was lightning and thunder outside, and I was lying in bed, and suddenly, a woman hugged me, and she trembled and said that I was afraid, and I was scared half to death, because I was a one-man master. So I picked up the lamp and smashed it, and the next day I was beaten by the woman and forced to pay 10 times the medical bill. I looked at her with a blank gaze. "You say the point. You like others think I'm in the water video?" Okay. On the night I was beaten, a woman with long hair and white clothes appeared outside the window, knocking on the window and shouting in a terrible voice, "Let me in." Strange things kept happening to me, and there were always women in my sleep. I had cool air in my ears and the smell of bone garlic. If this matter is not resolved, I am afraid it will affect Mom and Jupiter. So he asked her for the key to her house and was ready to meet this female ghost for a while. At night, I lay quietly in bed and waited. It took 3 hours for the movement to occur. Is it coming? I saw an eerie black gas coming from the window. A long-haired, red-clad Apiao appeared behind me. I looked at him and just asked lightly, "Hello, what's the relationship between the middle of the night?" It was a poignant face that was white and human. "My leg is missing. Can you give it to me?" Seeing him like this is a single whine. I feel so cute when I see a ghost now. Why should I give it to you? Are you evil? He floated there for 2 minutes. Thinking that I am a ghost, shouldn't he be scared away? Don't I want to lose face? Seeing that he was stupid, I went back to sleep if it was okay. Seeing me like this, the female ghost suddenly felt like eating meat. Zhang Yaower is looking for me to attack. If you don't give it to me, I'll rob it. I reached out and slammed my hand on her smooth forehead, and she sat down on the bed with her hands on her knees. He opened his mouth wide and showed his little tiger teeth and bit at me. I don't know if he has been single for a long time. Seeing that a female ghost has delicate eyebrows, seeing that I don't have a little scared look, she opened her teeth and danced to find a fierce look to bite me. And when she saw me, she grabbed her little hand, gathered the spiritual power in her body on her fingertips and turned it into a flexible, and gently tapped it on her. On her forehead, she returned to her original appearance. Looks like a beautiful and cute girl with a natural stay. A little girl from the Ling family with a ponytail. She looked at me curiously with a puzzled look. Why aren't you afraid of me? I haven't seen anything yet. Look at your heart is not bad. Why be scary? And what's your name? The female ghost turned her head. Why should I tell you? I silently raised my finger, and the female ghost's face changed instantly. Just say it. My name is Zhang Xiaobai. 2 years ago when I was a freshman and a big doctor, when I was crossing a deserted construction site, I fell into a big pit without paying attention. My legs were broken, and my body was seriously injured, and there was no one around. Looking at the endless night until you die. The one who dies unexpectedly shouldn't be able to become a ghost woman. Do you have anything you want to do before you die? He sadly recounted the past. When I was a child, my father was an alcoholic and drug addict, which eventually led to the family being torn apart. My sister dropped out of school to work as a part-time worker. I continue to study. I don't want to die yet. My sister worked so hard to let me go to college. I have let her live a good life. How can I die? She cried out and her face was wet with tears. I wanted to see her. I didn't expect her. I didn't want to die. My sister worked so hard to let me go to college. I have let her live a good life. How can I die? She cried out and her face was wet with tears. I wanted to see her, but I didn't expect her. I didn't want to see her yet. I didn't want to see her yet. I don't 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 want to see her yet. I didn't fly far before I felt that my soul body had a memory of collapse. I could only stay here. I touched her head sharply. You are here. The obsession affects this small space. I have a way to get you out of here. Zhang Xiaobai looked at me expectantly. Are you sure? In the purple microstar immortal cultivation realm, the fallen powerhouse can be reborn by snatching and shooting to devour other people's souls and fight against Nestle. And there is another way, which is to abandon the body and only cultivate the soul. There is only one set of exercises. You can become stronger after you practice, and then shape a body and soul for yourself into the master. You are equivalent to being reborn. He burst into tears when he heard it. As long as you can save me, I am willing to be a cow and a horse for you in the future. At the end, you will obey my name in the future, and I can rest assured that he will protect my mother in the future. Zhang Xiaobai glanced at me strangely. Do you want me to call you master and be your slave? But he said stupidly, wait for me to cultivate into a human form. I will make a promise by example. I looked at him carefully, told him to stand up and look down. Zhang Xiaobai was a little inexplicable and still obeyed my words. What do you see? I saw my feet. So why do you see your feet at a glance? Zhang Xiaobai thought about it, and suddenly his face became gloomy. You are sarcastic about my fears, petty. You just know it, a little girl and a flat horse. Zhang Xiaobai's emotions exploded. People will grow up, and this ghost cry almost hurt others. Afterwards, I passed on the introductory cultivation method of the Ziwei New Ghost Immortal Sect to him, and personally guided him to cultivate overnight. The next morning, I asked Yoga to help me find where his sister worked. Xianming Xian. This is a northern Zhou family. A big man created a place where upper-class celebrities gathered, and came to the front desk to ask. After a while, I saw Zhang Xiaobai's sister Zhang Shaoqin walking out with a tea set. In order to fulfill the wish of the female ghost Zhang Xiaobai, I came to her sister's house. Zhang Shaoqin walked over with a confused look. I directly took out a note written by Zhang Xiaobai and handed it to him. He hesitated to open the note, and found that the words written on the note were if he was struck by lightning, if there is an afterlife. I'm going to be your sister. This is Xiaobai's self. Her body trembled, tears flowed down uncontrollably, and she was suddenly hit and sat on the ground. Seeing this scene makes me feel the same way. This is the pain of never experiencing the loss of a loved one again. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. His manager was cold, and I stood up helplessly when I saw this scene, and I will help him make this tea. Zhang Shaoqing knows that I am for his good, but making tea is not so simple. I took his hand and made tea with a calm mind. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. And while I was making tea, the two old men kept arguing, in order to add which was the strongest. It was a tea fragrance that attracted Zhong Lao, who calmed down and took a sip of the teacup, and took a sip of tea into his stomach for a while, as if he had returned to his 80-year-old youth. When their argument comes to me, is the dance cultivation more powerful than Naga? The old man is not surprised. He is so young. Aren't you a man? If you want me to say, neither of you is right. The two old men who were still arguing suddenly glared. Unexpectedly, the two of us argued endlessly, but were denied by the little brother. The little brother must have his own high aspirations, and all the cultivation methods in the world eventually point to the same avenue, which is eternal. My tone was desolate word by word. Obviously they thought my words were too, so use their strength to conquer them. I suspended a green leaf in the palm of my hand, and controlled the willow leaf to go down, and an extremely calm environment appeared in the tea table. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. Everything is as simple as eating and drinking, and the two wives who were arrogant before had already forgotten to breathe in shock at this moment, and dared to ask His Holiness your surname. So that your surname is Muli, and then asked suspiciously, please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. The manager outside was waiting anxiously, and when he saw me coming out and hurriedly inquired about the situation, I just responded lightly and persuaded them. The manager stood in place as if witnessed. This time the job could not be saved today, and he gritted his teeth as soon as his mind turned. Come to the two old men. That kid is a new tea man in our tea house, so I'm going to tell him to get out. What are you talking about? Old man Zhong frowned and slapped the tea clock fiercely, and the table that I had scratched with willow leaves before was immediately. But it can become fragmented, my good girl. Will not be heard by the master? Then he yelled at the manager, you sent it to me. If Master Mu comes to inspect the building again in the future, he will be treated more respectfully than me. Zhong Lao continued. Zhang Shaoxing is a good girl, and she will be the person in charge of this tea house in the future. What is it like to have a murderous female ghost at home? After that, I used the first method to shock the two respected old warriors, and then came to Zhang Shaoxing. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. Yo-Yo television series exclusive. But I regret taking him in, because no one can talk to him in the days of the ghost and suffocates him. Now I've been talking around me all the time, and I've heard that there are some unsightly things hidden in the men's room. Do you have one here? I blacked my face. The conversation was over, and he immediately took the J bottle and prepared to take him back. Of course, Zhang Xiaobai resisted desperately, and at this time there was a knock on the door. Is my brother there? I hurriedly used my spiritual power to forcibly put him in the bottle. Brother, remember to pay attention to the impact of doing things. I hurriedly hid the bottle. What do you say? Mu Xine said seriously. If I find out that you are taking a non-trivial woman home, don't blame me when I blast her out. I have changed the topic. What is the matter with me? Mu Xine glanced at me and didn't ask anymore. There was a man who called himself Yu Shaoxiong said that you have to find it. Seeing this, I turned around and told Zhang Xiaobai not to come out. He struggled a few times to protest, and came to the hall. Respectfully present the tomb box in his hand with the bear. This is the first century-old medicine that we have found for you. I opened it lightly and saw that it was a 200-year-old mountain meal. It's already a low-grade half-year-old drug, with a bear pose. We have sent some people all over China to buy these century-old medicines. I'm sorry for you, and when the time comes, you can help me find me to buy it at a high price. Master Mu, you are too outward. How can we let you pay? Before leaving, he took out one. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and the Indian columns. Then he took out the old mountain meal and gnawed it directly into his mouth. The huge aura in the room attracted Zhang Xiaobai's attention. That is ginseng. You actually eat it as a radish. Mortals will definitely not be able to bear the medicinal properties of a century-old meal. When I was an immortal cultivator who cultivated the High Immortal Bureau, I succeeded in breaking through in just 1 hour, and I saw Zhang Xiaobai floating in front of me with one eye. What's wrong? He suddenly came up to me and touched my forehead, but I couldn't hear the words clearly. I was afraid that it would not be a success. Is it a human being who is simple? After such close contact, I found that he was actually quite promising, and he was not allowed to make noise when I was cultivating in the future. As a punishment, today you are alone at home. Zhang Xiaobai hugged me and spread his feet, and people will also go. This level is useless for me. A 5,000-year-old steel. Come in. He saw that I didn't eat this set. He could only be obedient, and he hadn't taken his family out to eat for a long time. So he prepared Dai Mushin and his mother to go to the most famous wine. Yo-Yo television series exclusive. couldn't eat here for 2 years. It was a conversation between a few young people that captivated me. I went to the imperial capital with my dad some time ago, and I also made a special trip to visit sister-in-law Zhou Xiang. Sooner or later, I will go to the imperial capital to find you. This was a gathering of the younger generation of the super family, and several rich children noticed the outstanding-looking Mu Xian, and one of them deliberately walked up to him and touched his thigh with his hand. Mu Xian suddenly blushed and shouted, and he still shouted, "I'm from the northern Zhou family. Which family is this young lady from? Look for death. But my mother is about to come, so I'll spare her for the time being. We don't have any family. We're just ordinary people, and we're going to leave after pulling Jupiter." "I too. What are you in a hurry to do?" The face of the person who came is handsome and extraordinary. "Today I am here to do the East, banquet the younger generation of the major families in the Northern Zhou dynasty. Give me a face and sit down to get to know each other. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. This and Xiao Jianwu named and walked away, handed out a business card without giving up, and invited Mu Xian to come to his house to play. I grabbed it impatiently. I helped him accept it. "You can get out," knowing that we are just ordinary people. He was ready to do it without hesitation. "You've been around for a long time." I chuckled and raised one foot directly at him, and kicked it out. With a bang, he flew upside down as if he had been hit by a cannonball. The children of those families were frightened one by one. An ordinary kid actually dared to beat the children of the family. I put my arms around Jupiter. "My brother is called Mu Lin, and something will come to me in the future." A child of the family who followed Wu Qiming's side was a little puzzled. There was no Jupiter in the Northern Zhou dynasty at all. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. When Zhou Mingyuan came to his side, he suddenly felt that he couldn't get over his face, and he picked up the stool and smashed it again, and was kicked by me again without accident. This time, he fell to the ground in the posture of a dog eating, and walked out slowly with a gloomy face. This is a party she initiated, and to do it here is to smash her field. "Give me a face. The two of you come over and kneel down to make amends for the young master, and then it will turn the sky upside down. Your sister is not a delicate Yuyan, and it is also a good thing for you that she can climb up to the family." "I don't think so. What are you? Why should I give you face?" As soon as these words came out, the children of the family looked at me in amazement, and he actually confronted a girl of the Wu family of the super family in Beizhou. Wu Qiming also smiled. He was still here in the Northern Zhou dynasty. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. With a bang, the weak dragon bent his hands into shadow palms and rushed towards me with a brush. "Stop it." Suddenly there was a coquettish sound behind me, and then a shadow quickly rushed out from behind me, instantly attacking with a fierce momentum. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. Why does the yoga lady of the Northern Zhou super family maintain an ordinary boy? The many family members present were undoubtedly not shocked, and Wu Qiming looked at Yu Xiaotong with an unkind face. "Isn't your old man still lying in a hospital bed?" Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. Later, I heard that the potion had been destroyed. Could it be that Yoga deliberately released false news? His mind was in a hurry at this time. This news must be told to the family as soon as possible. "What do you mean when you jump out now?" Yu Xiaotong smiled evilly. "Of course it was to save you. Your father was beaten by others that day, and the people present couldn't believe it, but Wu Hong is a senior dancer who has been famous for a long time." Yu Xiaotong is also echoing the gang. "I advise you and know. Also, I put the flowers on the table today. Who dares to touch Mr. Mu in the future? I'm going to use all my strength to make him sound by all means. I see all this in my eyes. Yoga can be deeply connected, and there is no life. Over the years, the contest with Yoga has been secretly operated. There is no need to break the semblance of peace between the two countries now, but his little brothers are not so young. Have you, Yoga, already regarded yourself as the overlord of the northern state? Unless open your mouth said, "These two straw bales, I just want to come over this matter calmly." At this time Mu Xian's phone rang. Mu Xian came over and pulled my clothes. "Don't make trouble here. It's not good for him to wait down there for a long time, and I don't think it's interesting to compare with an ultimate five-finger comparison. But this and Dai Xiao ran up to block us again. Get lost." Another familiar kick kicked him away, and Jupiter said flatly in the elevator, "Brother, you are so powerful. I looked helpless. When you say this, can you be a little emotional?" For example, the excitement of femininity with a little worship and so on. I won't love. Is that so? She dragged her chin and tried to keep her mouth open as wide as she could. My brother is super powerful, right? It seems that I am too demanding, and my sister can't be so strict. At this time, at the gate of the Guye restaurant, an old cloth dog followed the young man, and the young man held an ink ring. The old man asked suspiciously, "Young master, when you have been promoted to Marshal Venerable and then replenished the treasure emperor, why did you waste time in such a small place?" But the young people do not agree with this, and every place should not be taken lightly. I want to see it. We passed him at the top of the stairs. He glanced at me with interest, and then glanced at Beijo Junjie here, and shouted, "Hello everyone. It is a great honor to participate in this banquet." Wu Qiming looked at the uninvited guest at the door. "What did your excellency do? This person's popularity is extraordinary, and he is definitely not a member of my Northern Zhou family." He elegantly held an ink fan and introduced, "Li Ren's surname is Mu, and he is a person from Jiangnan." The young man's handsome face and polite cards immediately attracted a few more young ladies from the big families in Beizhou. And Xiaodong are contemptuous. As for the like this, his brother secretly inserted it. "You look at Mr. Mu's body. Woo woo." Even if you can, let's talk about it recently, but Lu Pengfei waved his hand and refused. Suwen Northern Zhou people are outstanding and talented, so I have a special wall of your style. Now that he has a number in his heart, Wu Qiming came here when he heard it. Consciousness is a little proud. Talk about our demeanor. Lu Pengfei slowly opened the box of fans. "I think everyone present is garbage." A young man actually said that the entire young generation of the Northern Zhou dynasty is garbage. The entire Guye restaurant was suddenly taboo, and the Northern Zhou Junjie present was undoubtedly angry to the extreme. Wu Qiming saw that this person was confident, and he wanted to turn the war into a jade silk, but Lu Pengfei continued to humiliate him, and he originally wanted to come. Look at the prestige of the young and handsome man in the Northern Zhou dynasty. But unfortunately it was just a waste of fame, and immediately a few children of the family couldn't help but blow up the anchor. He Xiao rushed up directly with a few people, only to hear the sound of the fan opening comfortably, and a few people screamed. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Dian columns. And do you hold your hands every day and remember that you get drunk and hurt your eyes? At this time, he and the little bear chicken hurried in front of me. Something big happened above. Wu Qiming couldn't hold it on his face. "Let someone Wu understand your awesomeness." After saying a few words, he put up a fight. Lu Pengfei glanced at it, in claw, and then under the extremely shocked gaze of everyone, Wu Qiming was fanned out like a cannonball. In one move, Wu Qiming was seriously injured, and Yu Xiaodong, who was standing on the other side, suddenly closed his face. "You are Lu Pengfei of the Lu family in Jiangnan province. Are you trying to test our young people in the Northern Zhou dynasty?" Lu Pengfei looked around the arena and sneered. "Has my reputation spread here? I've walked all the way through Jiangnan cities from this side. I have walked all the way through Jiangnan cities. I have walked all the way through Jiangnan cities. I have walked all the way through Jiangnan cities. I have walked all the way through Jiangnan cities. I have walked all the way through Jiangnan cities." Jinhu Dongfang called all the way. "The Northern Zhou dynasty disappointed me too much. These little families have never heard of the top forces in Huaxia." And Xiaotong Chongjing looked at the sky. There is such a group of people in every era of Huaxia. They have a sky beyond ordinary people. These people are regarded as martial arts and martial artists, and their lowest realm is also a high-level martial artist. And the children of the Northern Zhou family were suddenly dumbfounded, and the most powerful big man in their family was only a high-level martial artist. The boy asked with a cold face, "Is it interesting for you to come to our North Week to challenge and humiliate us? Aren't you afraid that if someone knocks you out of Wuzuan, you won't be protected?" Lu Pengfei said very sincerely, "I have no intention of eroding the younger generation in the world, but I have fought all the way, you say. This is the weakest I've ever seen." Yu Xiaodong was angry but couldn't refute it, silently tensed his body and prepared to attack. Lu Pengfei glanced at him. "I don't like to hold hands and destroy flowers. I know I'm not your opponent, but I can't do anything you insult Beizhou." As he spoke, he used all his strength to attack him, but the outcome was doomed. Just one face. Yu Xiaodong vomited blood and retreated dozens of meters with a pale face. Lu Pengfei kept shaking his head in disappointment. Too weak, too weak. It's too weak. The children of the family in Changbaizhou are furious, and they want to rush up and fight with Lu Pengfei to the death. "Don't go." Yu Xiaodong stopped them, and dragged his scarred body to stand up. "We are not without geniuses in Beizhou, but we don't have geniuses. But I'm afraid that you won't be able to bear it after you invite him here." Lu Pengfei is interested. There is such a person in Beizhou. As long as it doesn't disappoint me, I will take back my words. The children of the family behind him are full of doubts. "Do we have such a person in Northern Zhou?" Came silently, and when they saw me and Yu Xiaoxiong walking in, everyone showed surprised expressions without exception. Just kidding. When Yu Xiaoxiong saw that his sister was seriously injured, he hurriedly came to her with a healing pill. "You are the strongest young generation in Northern Zhou. I said lightly without a little anger. I heard that you think that the younger generation of the Northern Friday Dao realm are all rubbish. Lu Pingfei admitted very simply, I don't know if you have any ideas. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Yo-Yo television series exclusive. The moment he continued to the apex, he launched a deadly attack like a cobra in an instant. Could this be the legendary secret technique of repeated horizontal jumping? Nonsense. This is the snake shadow palm. The aura gathered by this palm turned into a poisonous snake and opened. It's as if you can swallow someone in one bite. I was calm and didn't wait until the moment he rushed to me that the aura in my body slowly burst out and punched him. With an earth-shattering sound, a huge aura confronted. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Shouted angrily, you dare to hurt my young master. Lu Pingfei stopped the old man who was about to make a move. It was I who remembered, not as good as others. There is a sky outside the sky. I once met a monk. He could destroy the world with one punch. I don't think so. Now it can be proved that the Northern Zhou is far more powerful than you expected. At this time, Yu Xiaodong's cry for help came. It turned out that he was being forced by his brother to take medicine, and the pills developed by his brother always had side effects, and last time he was full of fever. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. In an instant, he felt that he was about to appear, and while I was healing, the Junjia of the Northern Zhou dynasty surrounded me, and most of the people here once stopped seeing me, but now they became the heroes in their hearts. They were overwhelmed, and now the reputation of the younger generation in the Northern Zhou dynasty will rise by at least a few notches. Lu Pingfei was supported by the old man and walked in slowly. His eyes looking at me were full of incredulity. Why are you so strong? Why didn't you go in the martial sect? Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. But Mr. Mu is a more genius existence than him. Don't say it too hard. The Imperial Capital Hidden Dragon Crouching Tiger can produce many people. I can't compare the first 7 of Qi to your Huaxia 5, so that the martial artists above the 5 should be about the same as Yuan Danqi. This person's status is not as good as that of me, so I will take the opportunity to inquire about the information of a martial artist. How many people are there in the Huaxia Martial Venerable? Lu Pingfei always replied, Wuzuan is scarce, and there are no more than 20 people, and there are about 6 or 7 people in the Imperial Capital. I pressed on. It is rumored that there are only 2 people in the Imperial Capital. One is the Master of the Woming Alliance, and the other is the person behind the palm of his hand. A little disappointed, but not to be taken lightly, Chinese martial arts have been handed down since ancient times, and there will definitely be extraordinary people in film and television. Brother Mu, we are all just senior dancers, and what we are concerned about now is who can be the first among the younger generations to become a martial artist. Every session of the 5 Alliances Alliance Masters was cultivated by these people, and the children of the Northern Zhou family gasped. The 5 Alliances Alliance Masters were almost equivalent to the emperors of the 5 Dao realms in China. I'm just smiling lightly. I'm not interested in what 5 Alliances leader qualifications. They don't know that I'm a constitutional revisor, and my eyes won't be limited to the small world of dancers. Lu Pingfei has a question mark on his face. Isn't this the goal of all Chinese people? After a perfunctory chat, he was ready to say goodbye, and when he left, he was still in pain. A traditional and chic fan, this person is really stinky, really commotionous. This is everyone's voice. Bin said goodbye to the child and prepared to leave, and a group of family children and father-in-law quietly bent down their proud bodies and returned home. Xiaobai has been bored for a day, and with her temperament, she's about to go crazy, so she took out Yuping, pulled up the stopper, and shook it a few times, but there was no movement inside. Unexpectedly, the female ghost who bought coke and gave it away was a ghost show genius, and in just one day, she put the D of the Ghost Fairy Sutra. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. Zhang Xiaobai proudly raised his 32 arms on his belly, looking like he was coming to praise me. It seemed that he had really picked up a treasure. If you cultivate a legendary ghost immortal, you will make a lot of money. Zhang Xiaobai had a smug smile on his face. Why don't you praise me? I won't be proud. I glanced at him and was really a child. Okay, is it so hard for you to say a compliment? Death Sundra, since you can reach the realm of narration, I can teach you some. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns. What are you thinking? His face flushed, and then he recited a trick from the Ghost Immortal Sutra to him. Zhang Xiaobai closed his eyes and silently thought that he wanted to become a tree, but he succeeded once, and then turned into a little pig. But was your aesthetic level taught by a math teacher? Don't you just want to see beautiful women? Then the body shaker turned into the appearance of a maid. She covered her blushing face with one hand and whispered, "How is it? Is it good looking?" I watched quietly. It took 3 hours to remind him, "You're gone?" He suddenly blushed and covered his face with his bare hands. But the next second he collapsed into my arms with a prostration, and suddenly felt so tired. Of course, your transformation consumes soul energy. Please don't hesitate to like, subscribe, forward, and reward to support Spiegel and Indian columns.